So we stopped here, if you remember. So as a giveaway, so I am going to set one question on patterns in the coming class test on the coming Wednesday. So there will be one pattern, but a very simple one. But you make sure that you are able to understand this piece of code. And I have put some variations of this. Some are a bit, a bit tough, I understand, but you should be able to understand the variations of this particular code. So I will help you. I mean, let me show you some variations maybe for you. So for you, I write a lot of codes on my own. So I basically enjoy doing that, but it has been a while since I stopped doing C programming. But for the sake of this class, I'm doing it. It's a part of my job anyway. So okay, so let's look at this pattern. I think I discussed this in the last class. Okay, what happened to this? Yeah. So you try to understand what is happening. So you just, somebody's calling. Okay. Anyway, so you see that if you so try to first understand this particular code. Try to have a close look. So you see that so here I have printed 3 rows. Okay, 3 rows. That's why the outer loop goes for from 1 to 3. So you have basically, so in this particular format, you have to print the you have to run the outer loop 3 times. That's why it is 3. If I wanted 4, then this number would have been 4. Okay, and you see that the inner loop is dependent on the outer loop. Why? Because here this j starts from 1, but it ends at I. So if the outer loop, so for when I equals to 1, so when I equals to 1, this control comes here, right? So for I equal to 1, you can have j equal to 1 and j equal to 1 only, because it is less than equal to 1. So 1 is getting printed, and there is space, and I put an enter. So that's why it goes to the next line. For the next value of I, for basic, so there is a check and there is an increment, right? So I goes to 2. For 2 also, j starts from 1. So it now goes from 1 to 2, because it is less than equal to I, right? So it is printing j. So it is printing 1 and 2, but it is and after that this loop ends, and there is a basically a new line, and it runs for a final time for I equal to 3, for which the inner loop runs from 1 and ends at 3. So it is 1, 2, 3. I hope this is clear to you. But unless this is crystal clear to you, you won't be able to understand the different tricks and different variations, different subtleties, different nuances associated with it. So here is one such example. So I showed it in the last class. If you were present in the last class, if you can have a look at this, so try to map this with the previous code. So this is 1, this is 1, 0. So what's happening? Okay, let's look at one more line. 1, 0, 1. Then 1, 0, 1, 0. So you see that there is there is an alternate printing of the odd and even numbers. So it is fine if I generate 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of j, I have to print the remainder. What I'm saying, remainder. So I do this mistake every time. So the remainder. So the way to print remainder is this. So instead of j, you are basically printing j, this sign, %2, which will print the remainder, right? So if you understood this, so you must have this construct, within your grasp, so that if any variations are there, you should be able to understand what's happening. Okay, so do I have any other pattern? Let me show you. But I'm sure you will be able to do it. It's just about getting used to it. Okay, let me show you one more pattern. So what's happening here? 10, 10, 9, 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8, 7, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So 1 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that part remains the same. So what is changing here? Yeah, can anyone tell me what is so very different in this particular code? So what change do I know? I mean, do in this particular code or this particular code to get this? So the pattern is similar, right? But it is not the same. I'm doing something else. So what is this 10? You see that this is the value of n here. N is the number of times number of rows I want. 1, 2. So I mean this is not the complete. This is not the complete pattern. So let me run this, then you'll understand. So this is the complete pattern actually. 10, 9. So it goes up to 1. So 10 here is n, the value of n, the number of rows I want you to print. So here what I am doing, so you see that this construct is the same. It is running n times. So in this example, n was 3, right? N was 3. So this is a more generic code, this one. So I have set the value of n as 10. And this is again a function. I mean, this is the same function of of I. So j is 1 less than equal to I. This part remains the same, but instead of printing j, I am printing n plus 1 minus j. So let's take situation for I equal to 1. So it is not dependent upon I, right? It is dependent upon j. So for I equal to 1, I mean, which in turn is, of course, dependent upon I also, yes. So I have to print 10, right? So this is printing n. So what I do, n plus 1 minus j. So j was 1. So for n equal to 1, for I equal to 1, j runs from 1 to 1. So I'm doing this n plus 1 minus j, which is 1, right? So it is, printing 10. Then when I equals to 2, j is initially 1, right? So we are getting 10. Now it is j is 2. So n plus 1, that is 11, minus 2, that is 9. So this is going on. It's very easy. You just have to think it with a clear mind. You can create your own patterns and you try to see what's happening. You have to do this exercise. It's very important because I'm going to ask you to write a pattern like this. I mean, it won't be very complicated. Okay, but you must be able to write this on your own. So you can discuss with your friends, before the examination as much as you want. You can seek, each one's help if you want, but not while the exam is going on. Okay, but I'm sure and I have full faith on you that you are intelligent enough to be able to do this like this. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so there are jumps in loops. So you can come out of loop whenever you want, conditionally or unconditionally. So you see that we already used break in what? Switch, right? So this is unconditional, jumping out of loop. This no one objects to, but this is this is in a sense similar to goto, but this is a part of many loop and control structures. So one is break and the other one is continue. So let's look at the one by one. So there is an example of break here. So here I am running this loop from 1 to 3. Okay, and when I equal to 3, I am using this break statement. So what's happening? So do I have this code with me? Let me see. Program. Oh God. Sorry. What's happening? Break. Okay. Yes, this is the code, I think. So if I equal to 3, I'm breaking. So I am coming out of this particular loop. So if I can run this code, so it is I equal to 2, it is printing. I equal to 3. Sorry, I equal to 1, it is printing. I equal to 2, it is printing. But whenever I equal to 3, it does a break, which means that the control jumps from this particular point to out of the current loop. So it will not go out of all the loops. It will go out of the current loop only. If there are more than one loops, then it will go out of the loop inside which it is called. Like in switch, it will go out of the current switch. So I did not use any nested switch there. But if you use nested switch, if there is a switch inside a switch, then then it will come out of the current switch. It is like that. So let's look at a more useful way of doing it. So this is a code which does linear search. So this I have discussed in the first class, right? First or second class. Linear search. What is linear search? So here is an array. So this is an integer type of array of 5 elements. I have initialized it with these elements. Okay. So let's change this. Maybe I can make it 9 or so. And I want to find an element in it through linear search. So no matter what you do, you have to check all the keys. So all the values, right? So key is the value which I want to find here. So I have to check all the elements here, right? So if this is a loop, I equal to 0, I less than 5. So I check if ai is equal to key. If this is true, which means that I found that key, right? I found the key at particular position, and I do the break. But you see that if I do the break, there is no so I mean the control here can come to this point. The control can come to this point on under two circumstances. One is that the loop has executed successfully. So maybe it has gone from I equal to 0 to I equal to 5, where this condition were false. Then this loop has terminated. The second option, the second circumstance here is break. So it can come out of the loop before the loop has terminated, right? So I need to check what has happened. So I may not do that, but if suppose the key which I am looking for appears at the first position, then there is no point in checking that in the remaining portion of the array. It doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, I mean, it will be useless, right? So that's why this particular code terminates the loop, because the purpose of this loop is served. I'm looking for something and I found it. End of the story. So to indicate that this is not due to the normal termination of the loop, this is by the application of break. I have to do some check. There can be several ways of doing it. You can check the value of I also. But to make the program a little bit more, I mean, meaningful, maybe, I mean, to better interpret what's happening, I have used another variable, found. Found equal to 0 means that I am yet to find the key value in the array. So this is, so found equal to 0 signifies that particular state, and I change the state to 1 whenever I have found it. So that is the interpretation. So that is the logical way of thinking, right? But you could have checked it without using the found variable. I agree with that. So I have checked if found equal to 0, then the search has failed, right? Because in that situation, this condition, I mean, wouldn't have been true, and this found basically wouldn't have been set to 1. So in found equal to 0, search would have failed. Also, you could have checked the value of I, as I mentioned. If the value of I is okay, what will happen if I find it at the last position? Then I think the value of I yes, that you can also do. So suppose if I break it here, the value of I will be less than, so this condition would have been true, right? So that you can also check. Okay, so let's run this code. So the key is at position end, right? The end position. So key position, so found 9 at position 4. So what is position 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose it is here. So suppose it is 4. So it would be found at position 1, right? Found at position 1, and let's write something else. So then maybe 10. Then this condition will never be true. This condition will never be true, and found will stay at 0 for the whole of the program. Then it will print search failed because there is a check here. Okay. So in this case, you have to, so I mean, this is the worst case scenario where you have to check all the elements in the array, right? So there has to be exactly n checks, where n is the size of the array. But so what's the best case scenario? Can anyone tell me what's the best case scenario?
You found it on the first place.
Sorry, your voice is not audible.
So you find it on the first place.
Correct. So in that case, you have to, so suppose I am looking for 1, right? So it would be found at position 0, right? It would be found at position 0. And after this, I would do this break. Then however long the array is, the check you have done is 1. So that is the best case. So you have to do at least 1 check, and at most you have to do 10 checks. So in this case, 5 checks. Okay. So this is simple enough, right? Simple enough for you to understand. Okay. So let's move on. All right. So so we have talked about break, right? So there is something called continue. There is something called continue. So what that does is, let's open a code. What that does is, whenever you write a continue, it will ignore the remaining portion of the body. So here, what I am doing is, this is an array which contains, so this is a float kind of array with 5 elements in it. 5 elements. Okay. So there are 3 negative numbers and there are 2 positive numbers. And I'm trying to find find the square root of the elements in the array, but naturally I don't want to find the square root if the number is negative. So if we are interested in finding the square root, we have to count, basically we have to come to this particular line where it prints the square root. So square root f is the sqrt is the basically the inbuilt function which is defined in math.h for f for float type. I think it works for double also. So it will find the square root of this particular number. But since we are interested in finding the square root of the positive numbers only, we will do this check. If this is less than 0, then it will continue, which means that the control will go back to the to the iteration. So sorry, to the next portion of the loop. So so there is one initialization, there is a check, right? After this check, control comes to this line. So if it is continue, then it goes to the to the increment. Then basically it increments this particular value and then it checks again. So the control goes back to for. So it will basically skip the remaining portion of the loop. So this will happen if it is negative, otherwise the square root will be calculated. So let's see what happens. So it will calculate square root for 2 and 7, but for the other three numbers which are negative, you see that this particular line of code will not execute it. But you can also use if else, that you can also do. Instead of continue, you can also do that. Instead, you can also check if is greater than 0 and then only do execute. That you can also do. So I have done this just to show you the functionality of continue. That's all. So there, there can be occasions where you may need this. So in that case, you should be able to use it. Okay, yes. So there is a problem with the while loop when it comes to using continue. What is that problem? So let's look at an example. So suppose I do this. So I is equal to 2 and I check while I is less than 5 and I'm printing the value of I here. If I equal to 3, I do continue. Okay, so it will skip the remaining body of the loop, this portion. Then what will happen? At I equal to 3, what will happen? Can you tell me? Yes. If I do continue, if I equal to 3, what is going to happen? This did not happen in the previous two codes. In the previous code or previous one or two codes which I showed you, that uses continue. But something different is going to take place here. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you. The loop goes on and on and on. So this is an infinite loop. This is never terminate. Someone asks you how to terminate this. This is the way to terminate it. You have to terminate it by force. So what's going on? You see that the increment here is a part of the body. So if I do continue here, the control will not come to this line. It will go back to the check. So it is condition is true, right? So it started with 2. So for I for I equal to 2, it is true, right? So this got printed and it incremented to 3. This also got printed. But after printing, it is experiencing this particular check. I equal to 3, then it's continue. So then it is checking again, but I is not incrementing, right? So I remains 3 forever. because the control never comes to the basically the increment part. So that's the problem. So be careful if you are planning to do this increment using while. Maybe planning to use continue using while, because while doesn't take care of the increment automatically. It only takes care of the condition. But suppose if I convert this particular code to for loop. So instead of while, I use a for loop. So I do the initialization again. So this line is not necessary. This is basically redundant, but it will check this portion of code. And let's see what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. So you see that it is working okay. It prints I equal to 2. Then it comes to this line. It is not printed. This line is print. This line of code will be executed if you don't use continue. Otherwise, this line will be executed, right? So you come to the output for I equal to 2. This condition is false. So this line is printed. For I equal to 3, this line is printed. I equal to 3 is printed. But there is a continue here. That's why this statement is not printed. But there is an increment. There is an increment. Then it checks again if I less than 5. So after this particular line, after even if you do continue, the increment is taking place. So it is now incremented to 4 and it is printing 4, and since it is this condition is false, right? Because now I is equal to 4, this won't be executed and this line is printed again. So this is a vital difference between for loop and while loop. That gives you even more reason to use while loop, because the 3 portions, initialization, check, and increment, are taken care of automatically by while loop. So even if the remaining portion is skipped here, increment is still taking place because it is not a part of the body, it is a part of the for loop construct. So for loop will take care of these 3 things for you. Which are the 3 things? Initialization, checking of the entry condition, okay, or checking of the condition of the loop in general, and the increment. So it can be decrement also, but you can also term decrement as a negative increment also. So increment is a generic term. These 3 portions will be taken care of automatically by for loop. So this will take place, okay, for loop, but not for while loop. This you must keep in mind. So you won't believe that I came across this problem while actually preparing the slides. So I did this much before. So I used to write C program quite a while back. So I changed this for to while, and I saw that this infinite loop is taking place. So that's why I decided to put this example. So I think it is a very important example to think about. Okay, so we have talked about a lot of patterns. So there is, I think you are aware of this pattern. So this is a famous Pascal's triangle. I think you have done it before. So let's go over it because it is a very interesting example. So the pattern is 1 1 1 1 2 1 1 3 3 1 1 4 6 4 1. So this will go on and on. So this is for so this is up to n equal to 4. So what is this exactly? So these are the coefficients of the binomial expansion a plus b to the power of n. So for a plus b to the power of 1, okay, so it can start with basically n equal to 0 also. So any positive, any non-zero number to the power of, any positive number to the power of 0 is 1, right? So this is by definition. Then a plus b to the power of 0 is 1. A plus b to the power of 1 is how much? A plus b, right? So the coefficients of the expression on the right hand side. So a plus b to the power of 1 will be a plus b. So the coefficients of a and b, or anything that contains both a and b, is the coefficients are basically the constituents of this triangle. So this is a plus b to the power of 0, 0. This is a plus b to the power of 1. So 1 and 1, and these are the, I mean, coefficients of a plus b to the power of 2, which is what? Sorry, which is a square plus 2ab plus b square. So the coefficients are 1, 2, and 1, right? So this is for a plus b to the power of 3. What I'm doing, yeah. So it is a cube plus 3a square b plus 3ab square plus b cube, like this. So this is the general formula. So nc0 a to the power of n minus 0 b to the power of 0 plus nc1 a to the power of n minus 1 b to the power of 1 dot ncn a to the power of n minus n b to the power of n. It's like this. So I think, I mean, during our school days, we were asked to memorize this, right, for 2 and 3, and for 4 you can, I mean, do it from basically this position, from say using this. So this is a generic form. So how to generate this? How to generate this automatically? I mean, naturally you can take 5 printfs to manually print all these things, but that's not the point. I'm talking about the formula of basically generating this. So there can be multiple ways of doing it. I am discussing with you just 2 ways. So one, if you have a close look at this pattern, if you just, I mean, ignore the first 2 lines, from the third line you see that it starts with a 1 and it ends with a 1. Okay. Otherwise, it is a sum of these 2 numbers. So number, so it is 0. If we consider its position to be 0 and this to be 1, this is 0, 1, 2. So this is 0, right? So we are calculating at position 1. So it is the number at the previous row at position, if it is j minus 1. No, this is basically, so I mean, one, I mean, basically row above minus 1 and the same column. So this is basically a sum of these 2 numbers. This is the sum of these 2 numbers. This is sum of these 2 numbers. It goes on like this. So if you look at the exact formula, so for I is less than equal to 1. So for I equal to 0 and I equal, so I, remember, is traditionally used to indicate the indicate the row number. So as I told you in the patterns, right? So I is usually used to index the rows. So when for rows 0 and 1, you use only these expressions. So 0C0 is 1. Or basically, I mean, IC0, I can be 0 if I is basically 0 also. IC0 is 1. And ICI is 1. So which is true here. So this is 0C0. This is 1C0. And this is 1C1, which are all 1, right? So this is also true for j equal to 0 and j equal to 1, j equal to I. So here, so 0, 1, 2 here, I equal to 2, and if you use this, so j supposes for 0, so 0 C1 is 1 and 0, 1, 2. So 2 C2 is also 1. Otherwise, you use this formula ICJ. So I is the row and j is the column. Okay. So I and j both basically runs from. So I runs from 0 to 1 in this case, to 2 in this case, to 3 in this case, to 4 in this case, and j is a function of I here. So for the other situation, so for I is greater than 1 and j is between 0 and I, in this case, use the formula ICJ equal to I minus 1 CJ minus 1 plus I minus 1 CJ. So in this case I use I. So so this is I minus 1, right? So from I minus 1, I sum up. So this is a particular instance of j, right? So this is 0 and 1, and we are looking at j equal to 0 here. So this is basically I minus 1 cj minus 1 plus I minus 1 cj. This is the expression. This you can use, or you can use something else. So for I equal to 0, you can use this 0c0 or IC0. I mean, both are 1. And for j equal to 0, for the starting position, you use this formula jc0. You put that as 1. Otherwise, you can use this particular expression. So ICJ minus 1 into I minus j plus 1 by j equal to ICJ. So this can be proved very easily. You can try yourself. So if you divide this, if you basically divide this by this, you will get this. So this is ICJ minus 1 into I minus j plus 1 divided by j. You will get ICJ. So here, you come here. So here, you basically have to multiply ICJ minus 1, this into I minus j plus 1 by j. So this will be 1 also. No, sorry, it will be 2 anyway. So that's the formula. So you have to keep this formula in mind, and this is basically the. So if you can run this particular code and if you can look into the code, you'll be able to understand. So this is the code I've written. So this is for 5 rows. You see, so I have printed this for the space only. So you can also do that. So from j equal to 0 to j less than equal to I, for j equal to 0 or I equal to 0, coefficient is 1. Otherwise, coefficient equal to coefficient into, this is the formula I'm using, I minus j plus 1 divided by j. So see, let's see what's happening. So this is just for the adjustment of the spaces, which is also a bit tricky, but you can figure that out. But this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. So this is the number of rows. You can change it. You can change it for 10 also. So it will work. It will work. So here also you see that 6 is this plus this plus this, like this. So please try to understand this particular logic, and you can try to implement the other ways of doing it. So I have used this particular logic here. You can use this logic also if you want. There is another way of doing it. What is that particular way? Simpler way, in the way in a way of speaking, it's simpler because you don't have to bother about this formula. If I tell you that this is the pattern you need to print, you don't have to understand mathematics. You still will be able to do it. So what do you need to do? You need to store this number. So you need to tell the program that doesn't matter. So in the first position and the last position, I'm going to print 1. End of the story. Here also I'm going to print 1. Here I will store the values of the previous step and I will add them, and then I will update. I will then store these values in the current step, and then the next step I am going to use these values. I'm going to add this up. That is also possible. So please try this out. Please try the other 2 variations. Please try to implement the other 2 variations. This variation and the variation I just talking about. You please try. I mean, try that. So I should not take that. I should not use the term. So generally, people say that try this at home, but still you are at home already. So try this after the class. So if you understand this particular code and you understand the working of this particular formula, it should be easy. I mean, from the people who are from this maths background, I think it is always. I mean, it is already clear to them. Otherwise, you can simply look into these expressions. These are fairly intuitive, and I'm sure you have done permutations and combinations when you are at school, right? or you have done it sometime somewhere, so it won't be any problem. So these are about the programs which I planned I will do today. I actually covered more. If you want to have a quick peek at another variation, okay, do I have this? No, I don't have, but I did that. Out of curiosity, I did that. Say Pascal's triangle. Where is it? Yes, this is another logic. So this is can be a bit complicated, but this is exactly what I told you. So I am using arrays to store the coefficients of the previous steps, and I'm adding them up and printing. So this will give you the same results, I think. But this is logically it is a bit more complicated. So let's do it for n equal to 4. Let's see what happens. One to one. Oh, for n equal to 4, maybe. So there is, or this is less than equal to, doesn't matter. You can do it for n equal to 5 also. So, but it does the same thing. It does more or less the same thing, I think. Yeah, it uses the same logic. 1, 1, 1, 1 to 1, same logic. You can do it. But I think there is some glitch about the value of n here, but that can be fixed. But this is the logic of where I have basically not used these two formulae. I've just stored the these values of the current step, and I used it in the next step. The next step I have stored these values in the array, and like this I have in the next step I have basically used the values of the previous two steps and added them up. Now this also works. So please practice.